Welcome back to Winning the Room. We're sitting here with Jess Scully in this episode. She's the former Deputy Lord Mayor of Sydney. And we're talking about governance, regulation, and where that sits in this crazy digital world that we find ourselves. I want to talk about technology and governance. And a good place to start is power. It's going to take some power. How has Clover Moore stayed in power for so long? What's the secret?
I think...
I've met her once.
Oh, yeah?
With you.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
And she just immediately radiated positivity and, power and a plan, and took time with me for no benefit to herself. I don't know, there's something about it.
So Clover, is the Lord Mayor of Sydney and has been for, I think, almost like 24 years maybe, or maybe close to 24 years. So a very long time. And I think the Clover's secret is just that she cares deeply about this place. She's so embedded in Sydney, and she knows every street. She will sometimes know the trees that you're talking about specifically. Like, she knows the park, she knows the place, and she knows the people. And I think she has this innate and built over time understanding of what the values of the city are, and that the community may come and go, and that there may be fluctuations and changes, but fundamentally people are drawn to this place and stay in this place because we care about the same sorts of things. We care about walkability. We care about environment and a green community. We care about shared public spaces and the importance of the public realm as that shared living room. The physical embodiment of our democracy comes from the shared public spaces that we're in. We care about opportunity and equality. So she knows that instinctively, and I think that's what's resonated with people for such a long time.
Yeah. I remember meeting her once with you, and God, we were getting her to do some silly thing on a video, DJing.
Yeah.
She was just genuinely up for it.
She was.
I was just really surprised.
Yeah. No, she's one of those people that I think is curious. Good leadership, I think, is curiosity and openness to change. And not changing with the breeze, but understanding the change in the headwinds as well.
Yeah. And we're in a moment of huge change.
Yeah.
AI, technology, changing almost everything. When it comes to governance, what should we be doing? Can it be governed? Do you think it's possible, or is it too complicated, as the overlords would have us believe?
I think, I think anytime a shiny new technology has emerged, we have been told by the puppet masters of the technology that this is special technology. We are special boys and this is special technology, and you couldn't possibly regulate us. You couldn't possibly understand how complex this is. It's not true. I mean, this is human-created technology. It can be regulated. It must be regulated because its impact and potential is potentially devastating on our economy, on our environment, on the social structures that allow us to cohabit and to work towards, a shared society. So it is capable of being regulated. It needs to be regulated, but regulation isn't the only way to solve this problem. What we need, I think, is a more diverse ecosystem of solutions, more diverse...
What do you mean by that?
We need to have different kinds of technological tools for different things. We're moving towards a monoculture where you get all of your information from business X, you get all of your products from business Y, and those are the only streams. And anytime you have a monoculture in any sector, you get bad outcomes because you don't get competition. You don't get new entrants being able to come into the battle and to offer something new. And you don't get novel, flexible, nimble solutions. You get onerous, slow, bumbling solutions. The thing that's kind of ironic about these 5 big companies starting to dominate the world is that they're becoming the things that they used to hate, right? They're becoming these immovable forces, and they're crushing the ecosystem for new things to come through. And sometimes regulation can be the monopolist's best friend because it can create high barriers to entry for new entrants and new solutions.
Can't compete. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I don't think regulation regulation is the whole solution here. I think what we need to do is have regulation that requires transparency, regulation that requires all of the parts to be shown of how these models work, and that they have to be adaptable and fixable when they're found to have perverse social outcomes. That's one aspect. The other aspect I think that we need to have is that we need to understand and quantify the inputs, right? So at the moment, all of the big technology companies function off your social network, my social network, our activity, our transactions, all the rest of it. That actually belongs to each of us. Yes, they might be the platforms that mediate and distribute and enable some of those interactions, but that data doesn't belong to them. So there has to be a way for you and me and all of us together to have some agency over our shared data. This idea, which is called the data commons, is about that. And there are other tools, like there's this tool called partial common ownership, for example, where we can all, using technology, own our part of the social grid, and manage it. So think about your own biological data, for example, your health data. Together, our health data can be really beneficial to researchers. It can be really useful to pharmaceutical companies. Individually, it doesn't amount to much. But you and I should be able to control who has access to it, who pays for it, and who has free access for medical research, for example, and change settings. Actually, I don't want you to use my data for cloning research, but I'm happy for you to use it for cancer research, for example. And, okay, big pharmaceutical corporate, you're going to access my data? I'll take a payment for that maybe just to me is not worth much, but together could be worth a lot.
Yeah.
So that idea is really important. So we've got regulation, we've got owning the inputs and owning the data. And then I think we need to be able to cultivate and invest in alternatives. And there are lots of alternatives. There are things like public AI is one of the ideas that people are talking about. The idea that it's that there's an alternative that might be developed for social benefit, that might actually model more beneficial and pro-social outcomes, is a really interesting alternative. Or that there could be platforms that could be invested in and cultivated, perhaps with public funds, to help to overcome and counteract some of the antisocial outcomes of our digital media landscape. To give you an example, there's approaches like Polis, there are approaches like plural voting, for example, that are all about finding the points of agreement, points of consensus in social debates, in trying to address issues, dealing with the kind of issues that politics often has to deal with, right? And rather than starting from oppositional points of view and amplifying those, it starts from the things that we can all agree on and that we're all are rooted in our shared values. And I think what we haven't talked about at all is what the role of democracy is in this, because democracy and all of the institutions and forms that democracy contains, it's not just going to the ballot box and voting for someone to represent your interests. All of these elements of democracy are about rebalancing the scales, about deciding what is fair in terms of this public realm and this discourse that we're creating, whose voices have access, where we have a shared public realm to build community, to have these conversations, to have stories told. The idea that democracy has no oversight or no humanizing role to play against the technological forces and the corporate forces that are eating up all the oxygen of our public discourse is absurd. The idea that this technology is too complex to be governed by regulation is just a lie. It's just something that every technological overlord of the era has said about their own special and unique circumstances. And we just have to be able to puncture that bubble and say, actually, no. Actually, what you're creating, tech overlords, is based off of the activity and the data of all of us. And so there's this idea called the data commons, for example, which says that while your data and my data may not be of any particular value individually, together our data has enormous value. And that's what Meta and Google, Alphabet and Google and Amazon and all the rest of them, they're built off the backs of our interactions and our data. And we should be able to control how that's used. We should be able to set limits for how that's used. And in many contexts, there's talk about the idea of a data dividend or some kind of repayment to the public from the way that that data is used. So there's a critical role for democracy in setting the terms of not only how that data is regulated and used, but what the conditions are, what the transparency is of this public marketplace of ideas that currently we have no control over.
Okay. You're going to have to break down some of those things. Truly.
There's a lot, right?
Because, well, look, call me simple, but there's a bunch of companies that are making more money than God right now out of the system as it currently is.
Of course.
Right? What is the incentive for them to change? Absolutely zero.
Nothing.
And they've got society in a position where we're clicking more than ever, we're more divided than ever. Like, something to me has to come in over the top and regulate first. That feels like that's the only way you could change it, because there's no interest from anyone in the system currently to change a damn thing.
But JP,
it
has ever been thus. The slave owners weren't motivated to end slavery out of their great corporate social responsibility manifesto, right? It didn't happen because there was an awesome piece of legislation or one elected official who came in and solved the problem. It happened for a combination of factors. It happened because, in part, enslaved people rose up and burnt down plantations in Jamaica. At the same time, you had people who were proposing policy alternatives, who were saying this is inhumane. And then you had a story that connected that crisis, and it told those slave owners and plantation owners, if you pursue this approach, you will lose everything. So here is the more humane, not entirely, but more humane alternative. And so that was imposed upon them. So it's always, and this is this disruption nexus idea from Roman Krznaric, it is always about social movements. It is always about radical new ideas, and it's always about the story. And it's that combination. We can never expect power to seed itself. It's never happened. And we can never expect governments to do it of their own accord either. It's always the people.
My only issue is I feel like the slaves of today are happy, don't realize they're enslaved, and feel terrific about, it's why they continue to go and subscribe and spend.
Do you know anyone who is happy with the current state of the world? Can I meet them? Can I have their address? I have a bridge I'd like to sell them. Nobody's happy with this world that we're in. We all feel overworked and disconnected, and we feel like even if we're fine, we're not sure about the world we're handing on to our kids.
That's for sure.
Nobody's comfortable with this. The problem is we're not realizing we can fix this together. We're all in this together. Everybody, even if they look like they're having a great time on Instagram, everybody is feeling it, because this system that we're living in is antisocial. It works against that fundamental human urge that we have to leave a better world for our kids and to actually feel connected to each other.
Yeah. So you don't think there's a large group of people that are delighted with what they can now do with AI, enjoy social media deeply? I feel like there's a lot of people out there that feel great about those. I agree on a sort of general feeling, how's the world? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like I'm going to make a better place for my children? I agree. Most people don't feel good in that regard. But I think we are lulled into a sense of it's okay. AI, social media, digital generally.
I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Maybe we're in two ecosystems
Maybe you're right. But I think when we live in a world where so many people feel the urge to, overconsume to fill a hole, or to change how they are physically to fill a hole, or to perform a certain lifestyle in order to conform, it kind of speaks to me to a broader sense of social unrest and happiness, some kind of fulfillment that we're not achieving. We might be the richest, most well-fed, longest living people in history, But I don't think there's that much happiness and well-being in the community. I think a lot of people feel disconnected, maybe feel like they don't have that deeper meaning and maybe just feel like there's something that's wrong, there's something that's missing, but we haven't had a story yet. I think that helps to connect everybody's feeling of that gap with this broader set of problems that we're facing, right?
So you think a story could be the thing that gets people to pause and go, actually, do I really want to go this headfirst into AI? Do I really want to spend X amount of hours staring at a screen during the day? Do I really want to just be in my little, small community, not out in the broader world doing stuff? You think a story could...
I think not just a story,
probably
but
multiple
many,
stories.
many stories.
Yeah.
Many stories. I think that's what it is.
We need a platform for those stories.
We need an ecosystem of stories. And we need people to feel empowered to tell stories and that they will be heard. And yeah, I think stories are the thing that jolts you out and makes you think, maybe there's a name for this feeling that I'm having. Maybe there's a reason for these feelings I'm having. And maybe other people feel like this too. And maybe together, maybe we'll make that community garden and that will be my gateway drug into community and into changing the place where I live. Or maybe getting involved in the school will do something. Or maybe, getting involved in some kind of movement will help me feel a connection. But at the moment, I feel like the longing for connection is being satisfied in ways that are unsatisfying. But there haven't been enough effective stories that have cracked through.
Yeah. Because you do see those stories online every now and again. I hope they're authentic. Someone tears up their life and sells everything and rents a boat and just, me and the waves, and they go out and they spend years on the ocean doing whatever they're doing, and of course they're vlogging it. But regardless, they've had that moment of like, actually, I'm going to bust away from the system. I'm not going to be held hostage any longer, and out they go. So there are stories in pockets. But
But see, how many of those stories are about one person against the world?
Yeah, they are. They're heroes' journeys.
Right?
They are.
When actually, I don't know about you, but I feel the best when I'm connecting with other people. That's the hit. That gives me the hit. Maybe I'm an extrovert and that's how I get my juice. But, I
think I dreaded it in anticipation.
Really?
And then I walk away going, wow, that felt really good. So I do get it in the end.
Yeah.
But going into those social settings, I'm not hugely looking forward to it. I'm relatively extroverted.
Normal.
But yeah, like I sort of have, and God, I hope it's not because I've been trained by COVID and everything else to sort of be a little bit in my own world. But yeah, I don't look forward to them. And then I come away feeling like, wow, that was enriching. That was great.
Yeah, but I don't look forward to going to Pilates. But when I come out of Pilates, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
The next day it hurts. But like
I reckon it's back to the vegetables versus fast food analogy, truly.
I think you might be right.
We've actually got to go through some stuff which maybe doesn't have the instant gratification.
Yes.
And then, but over time you realise how nourishing it is.
And I think
it's hard to convince
a
fast food person to eat vegetables. And
once they do.
Yeah. Good point. Once they do, it changes.
I think it is, and it's a dread versus kind of payoff thing. And I think, it's this idea, I think, as well, that we have been conditioned to have all these frictionless experiences where if I don't like what I'm getting, I can just I can close the screen, I can put down my phone, I can walk away. But real life is messier and harder work and more annoying. And yet you got to get through that to get that payoff of connection and belonging. And I think we have to tell that story. We have to keep telling that story and maybe telling in a different context that it's worth the effort. It's worth going and working the barbecues at the soccer game. So then you get to be connected to a whole bunch of people in your community and it gives you something extra. it sucks to have to go to a protest and give up your Sunday and go and do that. But you feel like you're not alone when you're facing some of the horrors of the world or injustices of the world. You get a payoff. Yes, the payoff might be achieving the social outcome, building the community garden or having a great soccer team. But the payoff is also an individual payoff of feeling connected to each other.
I love your positivity and I love your insights, man. It's been fantastic to have you. Thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure. Always nice to chat with you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for listening to this episode. It's a really important conversation that needs to happen, and you can find us anywhere where you get high-quality podcasts. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, make sure you check out the next episode.